Hey, what's up you guys? It's Zach with PCBros, coming in with another how-to PC build. And today we're gonna be doing the really popular sleeper build trend, but going a little bit more on the budget side. In this box right here, I have ordered on Amazon all of the essentials that we're going to need, plus a GPU separately. So in this box, it's going to have the case, the RAM, the storage, the motherboard, the CPU, everything that we're going to need. And then we got the 2080 Super as well. So we're gonna have a powerful gaming PC. And at the end, I'm gonna show you some benchmarks just to show you what this thing can do. But yeah, let's go ahead and unbox it and see what it's all about. So I haven't opened this yet. So we're gonna experience this together and see if I got everything I ordered. eBay has a lot of listings like this where you can get old office PCs with all the essentials you need and then buy a GPU separately. It's a good way to get into PC gaming where you don't actually have to build the full PC. You really just have to install the GPU, re-thermal paste it, which I'll show you how to do, and just verify all the parts are there. So here it is. This is the bones and the structure of this sleeper build that we're gonna be doing. The case is actually in pretty awesome shape. I'm going to show you what it looks like opened up and run through the specs. I'm pretty excited to put this together. So let's dive a little deeper, shall we? So this case is the HP Z2, I believe. And this might be pretty nostalgic for you if you had one of these at school or at the office. But today we're turning it into a boss gaming PC. So let's go ahead and open up, make sure it has all the parts that it should. And there we go, we have the dual channel RAM. This should be 16 gigs. Now I'm looking for the storage. It looks like it's in this like NVMe extension, but this should be 256 gigs. Now we just gotta verify that the CPU is correct. It should be the Intel i7 8700, and then we're gonna have to repaste it. So on the checklist to get this thing rolling, we're gonna repaste the thermal paste, add the GPU. So to get to the CPU, there are 4 screws. It unfortunately did not come with thermal paste, so I'm gonna be using the ID Cooling Frost X45. I'll also have a link down below for different thermal paste that might be a little bit cheaper. Yeah, that thermal paste is pretty dry, so I'm gonna need an alcohol wipe. We can go ahead and take off the fan completely. We wanna make sure we remove the header right here. There's a little button you hold down, push. It might take a little wiggle. And we wanna clean off the bottom of the tower cooler as well. So I have some alcohol wipes, and we're just gonna take one, remove all the paste, and do the same on the tower. All right, let it sit for like a couple minutes here to let it dry. While you're doing that, make sure you get your thermal paste ready. Gotta roll up my sleeves here. And to verify, this is the i7 8700K. I like to use the X pattern. So just make it an X. And this stuff's thick. All right, it's not really gonna be an X. All right, that's probably a little too much. You probably wanna do a little less. So now we want to reinstall the tower. We wanna go fan facing that way, and then we'll plug that in after. So just make sure it lines up nicely with all the holes. Be gentle when you push it down. And then we are going to go alternating screw pattern. So we'll do a few turns here, then go on that one across from it. And I would hold a hand on the cooler as well, just to make sure your screws are actually going in. That step is done. Next, we are going to take these PCIe cables, and this is what we're gonna need for the GPU. So take a look at your GPU and see how many ports it has. This one has 2 with a 6-pin and an 8-pin. But first we have to get this in, and the seller has sent me this extension bracket that I do not need, and it looks like it's just on 2 screws, so I'm gonna remove that. All right, now we're going to get the case ready for the GPU. So we're gonna have to clear 2 of these lanes, and I know I'm gonna need 2 because on the GPU, it is 2 lanes thick. So we're gonna have to clear, I believe it'll be these top 2 here. So we are going to remove this. Okay, so I removed the sag bracket, which I believe this is what this was. I've never seen one of these before. But now we're gonna need to remove these 2, which is easy, they just slide out. So you don't need to break these off like on modern like gaming PC cases. You can just slide them off, put them back on if you want. And now I can put that GPU in. Make sure the PCIe cables are not in the way. Now we're going to connect the PCIe cables. It should just be an easy click. These can only go one way. And if you want, you can add this sag bracket thing back if you really want to. I might, just because it's there. All right, so we replaced the thermal paste, installed the GPU. Now let's actually plug this in and make sure it works and all the parts work too. Don't forget to put on the side panel. All right, we are now in the benchmark section. We're starting off with Fortnite, and Fortnite's gonna be one of those games that will really push this CPU. We are playing on performance medium settings. For pretty much all these games I'm gonna be showing you on the benchmarks, we're going pretty low settings, lower than you can go. But for a budget PC like this, I like to go performance mode just to get the smoothest experience. This is also in 1080p. The first time launching and landing in Fortnite, you're gonna notice a pretty significant drop in frames. This is gonna be for most PCs. It's gonna take a while for the game to load completely, so just keep that in mind. Later in the benchmarks, you'll see the FPS go way up. And the good news is, now that I've landed and loaded in and walked around for a little bit, it's pretty dang smooth. We're getting well over 180 to like 200 FPS and having no issues. This gives you plenty of room to experiment with higher settings if you care a little bit more about how the game looks. But right now, this is a pretty awesome and enjoyable experience. So I'm gonna let this gameplay just roll out so you can watch a little bit of it and just see for yourself how this PC is doing. Next up, we have a brand new game here. This is the benchmark tool for Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, this game's not even out yet. This is, I believe, the beta benchmarks. This kind of simulates what you get in the beta testing of the game. So like the first cutscene and the first little bit of gameplay here. I'm gonna skip the cutscene so we can get right to the gameplay. This is on the lowest settings because this is a way more demanding game using Unreal Engine 5. I'm really just pushing this system just to see how far it can go, but this gives a good idea about what the max this PC can handle is. Now, on lowest settings, this is not going to look great. Just keep in mind that we are really just focusing on the frames. It is using basically all of that 16 gigs of RAM, and we could probably even turn up the settings a little bit more to give that GPU a little bit more of the load, but overall it's keeping around 50 to 60 frames per second pretty consistently throughout the whole gameplay section. It gets a little bit higher on the cutscenes or the cinematic parts. Again, this is probably not why you would get a PC like this. This PC is really meant for games that are a little less demanding, esports titles, low settings AAA. But I thought it would be fun to try this one out and just see how far we can push it with Unreal Engine 5. So enjoy some of the gameplay here, and then we'll head on to the final game. The final game that we're going to be testing is a classic, one that we test a lot on these budget PCs, and that is GTA 5. I believe a lot of people play this game today for the mods, so keep in mind if you are doing mods, that is going to add a more demanding element than you're seeing here on just the benchmarks. But I think the benchmarks show a wide range of scenarios, and you'll see the frames dip a little bit and get these weird chops. But for the most part, these benchmarks are doing pretty well. I would say this is a playable experience. So being a very budget conscious PC, I'm pretty impressed with the results on these 3 games. Even Monster Hunter Wilds, I know it was really low graphics, and you probably wouldn't want to play it like that anyway, but it was still cool to push the system and see even on the newest software that it can still kind of keep up with that 2080 Super. Now this system, how we built it today, can last you as long as you need it to, but there is some upgradability potential. We see that 16 gigs of RAM was kind of getting maxed out in some of the games. Adding another 16 gigs would really just help elevate it on some of those more RAM intensive games. I would also recommend adding more storage, because I know 256, a lot of you are going to think that's just ridiculous, but that is just what it came with, and this was just a bare bones budget build. What bundles can I pair together on eBay to get the best deal? Obviously, adding an SSD won't be that hard. There was SATA in there that we could use. So this PC does have some longevity to it as well. If you can add more storage, add more RAM. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. The next video that I'm going to be doing is a more mid-range build, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.